So we need to set up a default account, default region, and then stage, and then I can just do npm run deploy. It's cdk deploy. Let's check package.json. cdk deploy. So what it will do is it will check your resources, your stack. So this is my stack, app stack, and we are passing all these properties, and these are the resources it is creating. Bucket, and then development, and then Cloudfront distribution. Okay, say yes, and let's get proceed. So it is creating our resources for this particular stack, and if we look into this code again, this particular stack, what it is doing, it has S3 bucket, a distribution, and a simple deployment. I mean, when you already have a folder available which contains your static website code, then you can just create a AWS S3 deployment directly. You just need the bucket name and the source folder from which it needs to pick up your static folders and the files, which it will upload to this particular S3 bucket and expose this index.html. I think we have index.html created for it. So it will start creating the resources for it. So we are creating Cloudfront, a simple S3 bucket, and S3 deployment. It's not a construct, it's just a mechanism using which it is deploying it to the S3 bucket. Okay, and we can check all these things happening on the cloud formation, like what all resources this particular stack is creating. I'm creating a stack and I'm destroying it, so I do not get any extra billing on my AWS account because all these are the small demos we are doing. So this is the deployment it has created, Cloudfront distributions and React app static bucket. Okay, so it is still in progress, but we can see all the events, create, update in progress, resources, all these resources, and we can start looking for the Cloudfront. The Cloudfront distribution it has created, pointing to the S3 bucket. This is the description we put, and you can see the origin is this particular bucket name, you can see. So either you set up all these things manually, or we use this AWS CDK to do our stuff. So here we can see S3 bucket. So this is React app development, I guess. Yeah, this is the bucket, and you can see it's publicly open, publicly accessible, because we added this policy. We added this policy document after creating the bucket. So this is public read is available on this. We will see the deployment part, like how it is going to bundle up things and put that on the S3 bucket. So that is still in progress. We can check the cloud formation. What is the real progress of the stack? Create is in progress. Resources, it is still creating the Cloudfront distribution. Deployment, it has already created. I mean, these are very slow because cloud formations and lot of things are happening under the hood for this, but it won't break until unless if you are doing some mistake, which it will complain and it will just roll back all the resources it has created. Maybe like because it is creating these stack one by one. If you did any single mistake, it will just roll back the whole stack and it will delete all the resources. So it will just, you will just get a clean picture if you do some mistake, so you can start back again from the fresh copy. So let's see the demo in the next video because it will still take time. So this is just a simple demo. Now how we can extend this example? Currently we are talking about simple S3 bucket and Cloudfront, because you can use Route 53 because maybe you don't have an external domain which is available. I'm talking about this particular example. Either you create a hosted zone and then get the certificate from the hosted zone, validate this certificate against this hosted zone, get the certificate through the certification manager. So what we will do is, let's say we don't have a Route 53 and we have Route 53. These are the two set of examples we can cover by extending this example. So here we can see our stack is deployed, and we can also see that on the AWS console. This is my Cloudfront. If you see the distributions, and this is my S3 bucket. I will open it in another tab. So this is my S3 bucket, and you can see it has index.html, which is uploaded through S3 deployment. Okay, and when you click on it, you can also open it directly because we are allowing public read, right? And you can also access it through the Cloudfront. This is the Cloudfront URL. We copy it and paste it. You can see we can access it through the Cloudfront URL, and the static web hosting is enabled, so we can see the index.html working. Now another part of this is, let's extend this example and let's make it a production ready. So we need to add a certificate. We need to disable the public access on the S3 bucket. So only, where is our diagram? This one. Only Cloudfront can access this S3 bucket. So we will just disable the public read access to the outside world. Only Cloudfront will read this, and we will also attach a certificate to the Cloudfront which AWS provides. And let's say we don't have a hosted zone. We may have just an external domain. Let's say GoDaddy, where you already have a domain. So you will create a subdomain and point to the Cloudfront distribution. So this is how it will work. Or you can have a Route 53. You can put a Route 53 here, hosted zones, and that will there you can manage the domain, because on AWS also you can manage the domain and then create a CNAME record there to this Cloudfront for your subdomain. All those things, for that we need to go to our code. So this is our S3 bucket, and we are giving a public read access, because you can see this is the principal, this is resource. It means everyone has an access to this S3 bucket read, which in ideal case we should not allow. Only Cloudfront should be having access to the S3 bucket. So no one unnecessarily do lot of pings, and AWS will charge based on the read on the S3 bucket. Okay, now what else we need to change? We need to just look into the documentation, how it really works. So we need to create a certificate. I will use some help here, and you can see the public access is now blocked. So this is our S3 bucket. Public read access is false, and block public access is block all. We are not allowing any public access, and then we are creating this certificate. Can we import it directly, or we need to use cdk.aws? So we are getting a certification, and this is coming from Cloudfront origin access identity. So we are creating a identity so that we can attach this to the S3 bucket, so that only Cloudfront should be able to access this S3 bucket. So here currently we are allowing everyone, right? Action is allowed, and the resource is this, and the principal, I will just use this principal. Everything is same, we just need to change the principal. Principal is now this Cloudfront, So you can see CloudFront OI and then CloudFront origin access identity S3 canonical user ID. Okay, I will explain you what it means is when you play with the UI console, you can actually manually set that only this CloudFront has an access to the S3 bucket. So that's what we are doing here is this is your resource. This is your who is going to access this S3 bucket with the all allow access. This is the SID and the action is get read. That means we are blocking all the public read access and giving access to only this S3 bucket. Static website S3 bucket, and then we are creating distribution. Before that we need to play with the certificates. So here we are getting viewer certificate and then passing this viewer certificate to our CloudFront. I don't want to write it all these things. So here certification manager, close CloudFront, and then certification ARN. We already have a certificate and the region account. So we can pass this environment variables region and account IDs. Node this dot node stake. Okay. SLS method. We can import security policy document. First of all, why it is complaining. Okay, so we are creating a viewer certificate. So we have created already certificate from the certification manager. And then I need to find a fix for the supply removal policy by looking into GitHub issues. This is how we need to pass the apply removal policy. And then it fixed it. And then metrics, and here you can see SSL methods. So this is enabling the HTTPS on our CloudFront distribution. We also need to pass the region and the account from the env. So here you can pass simply account. That is also a string region, or you can have an env in which you can pass both the parameters. So here, I mean in env we are already passing it, so I can get it from there instead of creating two more props. So from props.env, props.env.region, and the another is props.env.account. Okay, apply removal policy. These are the TLS certificate, and here we are creating this distribution React app v2 distro. Okay, this is the viewer certification, and here now origin config is different. I know we have the S3 bucket source is still the same, but here origin access identity is now changed from CloudFront origin access identity, and this is the behaviors, and the deployment mechanism is still same, React app deployment. And now I will be making these as a version 2, so we don't see any conflict. Certification manager is totally new. We are using this S3 bucket, so I will just change it to version 2, bucket name version 2, CloudFront, and here we are adding the resource policy certificate, and then adding the certificate to viewer certificate to the distribution. This is when you don't have a hosted zone like Route 53 and all. Otherwise you can get the certificate and the validation from the Route 53. Here let's say our domain is on an external website like GoDaddy. From there I already bought a domain, and here I just wanted to add a certificate from the AWS to my CloudFront. So here is everything is now configured, looks like. Domain name we are passing, so domain name is alias, which we need to pass. Here you can see we are setting the alias for the CloudFront, right? And in the certificate also we need to pass the alias whatever we are going to use. So here I will just pass domain name is, let's say, app.pkserver.com. Okay, and then we will just do CDK deploy. So it will again look into your stack, what it contains. It contains S3 bucket, a simple certificate, from the certification manager. And then on the Cloudfront, we are using this Cloudfront origin access identity. And we are creating the v2 version of bucket, certificate, Cloudfront, and we are adding a policy to the S3 bucket so that Cloudfront can access the data. So this is the action. And then the viewer certificate, we are attaching this viewer certificate to the Cloudfront distribution, and then the same deployment. Let's see this, how this goes. I mean, this is just deploying the stack and creating all the CloudFormation chain sets. So we can see what all resources it is creating when it is deploying this. It is updating because stake name is still the same, but we are just using the different resources. You can say this is the certificate, React app development, this is the distribution, this is the S3 bucket, and that's it. All these things we are using in our stack. So it will take some time. Meanwhile, we'll connect back and we will see. And what I will do is, if this stack creation is successful, we will host it through app.tkserver.com, because on that I will go to the GoDaddy and I will attach a CNAME, this app, and will point to the Cloudfront distribution.